Hey guys, Kid here. It's been a while since I did my last video. I ended up getting sick and getting bronchitis, so I couldn't really do any videos or anything for a while, but finally have the time to do another one. And I'm gonna do it on a profile that some people have been asking for. I finally was able to get the PR cards needed to finish this. I am missing one card in this deck profile, but I figured, hey, why not just do it anyway, and I'll let you know what card is proxy right now. But the deck we're doing today is Vividred, and this is gonna be the like updated Vividred version that includes the anti-healer PR card. So to start off, we'll go through level zeros. Right now we have 4 Akane level 0 beaters. This card gains 1000 power if your opponent has 3 or less stock. So, or 3 or less, correct? Yeah, it has 3 or less stock. This card's like really good because this card's basically always at level 0. It's always going to be 3/5, and even if your opponent drops 3 characters and swings, it's still going to be 3/5 for at least one more turn. So that's the best thing about this card. It's just a little overstated, and there are other support cards in this build that just lets it get pretty buff. Next, we're running 4 of these Aoi, which is the target for the change, which I'll go over later on. Basically, this card is just 2k with hand encore, and its secondary ability is if you tap a key character. I believe it's key character, right? Yeah, tap one of your key characters, and it gains 1000 for the turn. So with like 2 supports in the back, this is like 5k at level 0, which is really good. And because it has hand encore, it makes your level 0 game really consistent. So if you just drop one of these, most of the time you'll be able to get over whatever level 0 your opponent puts out, and then still like encore it when it dies on your opponent's turn. Because of this level 0 and the other beater Akane, you don't really have to run Suicides in this set because of how strong and how buff they'll randomly become at level 0. Next, we have 2 of these searcher cards of Himawari. It's just a generic pay 1, discard 1 searcher deck for a key character added to hand. You use this usually to find the components to your change, and also when you need it, your anti-healer and things like that, or the level 3s, and also when you need to ditch climaxes. Next, we run a 1 of this Aoi support. It's a pay 1, draw 1, discard 1. This is one of the discard mechanics we're going to use in the deck, but also it has a secondary ability where it's tap 2 key characters and then give one of your characters 2k for the turn. This helps you get over like really big things at level 1 and stuff like that, and then also later in the game it's another start up ability for one of your level 3s that you use later on, which I'll go over. Next, we run only 2 of the anti-healer. Basically, the way the deck is run right now, you only really need to play one of these. The other one usually goes to like level zone or just whatever. You never really want to have 2 of these in memory. And then there are games where you just don't even play it in memory because your opponent's already playing anti-heal, since there's so many anti-heal out there lately that there's no reason to double stack it because of how much it just hurts you and your game plan later on if you need to heal. Next, we have 3 of these Akane supports. It's just global 500 to key, and then a secondary ability which is pay 1 and kill one of your opponent's front row level 0s. Really good at getting rid of runners and stuff, but most of the time at level 0 you won't even do this anyway. But late game and stuff like that, this can randomly be good to help you get 1 more soul in or something like that. Next, the deck is supposed to run 2 of these Wakaba Brainstormers, but I currently only have 1 because I sold the other one a while back and just forgot to replace it. But this card is a pay 1, tap it, middle top 4. For every climax you hit, you take a card from your clock and add it to hand, then take the top card of your deck and put it to clock. It's a plus hand Brainstorm, which is really good in this set. and helps you get like event cards, which you don't really run anyway in this, but it helps you get just cards you need from your clock and like possibly correct color problems later on. Second ability is if you tap 2, you can give one of your characters 1,000 until the end of the turn. Also, another startup ability that helps later on for the level 3 Wakaba. Next, we're moving on to the level 1 game. So the level 1 game is actually all based around a change target, which is this 1-0. It bonds to the level 0 Aoi that I showed earlier, this one. And but it bonds by discarding a card from your hand and getting this from the waiting room, so it helps you hand fix too. So like when you need to ditch climaxes, you can salvage this and then discard a climax to get another beater or something like that. But the second ability is the best part, which is when you have this card and this card on the field, you can pay 2, send these both to memory, and change into the level 2 Vivid Blue, which I'll be showing later. That's basically your level 1 beating game. You like want to do all the time. You basically want to do this as soon as you hit level 1. Your other level 1 game is 3 level 1 Suiciders. Has a secondary ability, which is one of I want to say the best abilities in the game, but it's one that I do enjoy and some other players around here do enjoy. Is when it comes into play, you can pay 2 and salvage a card, so it helps replace itself. And then of course it's a level 1 Suicider, so it helps you get rid of like really annoying level 1s that you don't want to just like deal with. Your last level 1 beater is these 1-0 Aois that gain 1,000 if you have 2 or more, 3 or more. It is 2 or more other key characters on the field, so they're generally always 106Ks, and 106Ks are always good because they're just overstated 1-0s that cost nothing, and it can be pretty annoying for your opponent to deal with because you usually have global support and you can buff this up if need be, so it became a 1-0-7-5 or like even 8-5 if you need it for a turn. That, and we do play mostly blue at level 1, so it helps us stay in our color. Finally, we run 2 of these counters. These counters are just normally a 1-1. It's just 1-1 1500 counter, but the secondary ability is if you have 2 key characters in memory, this card you can like give another 1500 power to the character. So they're generally 1-1 3k counters. These are used to like protect your change target, which is the 2-1 Aoi, which I'll be showing next, and just like protect your other random stuff and like scare your opponent into like not fighting you. Generally your 2-1 should never die out. Next, the target that the 1-0 and the 0-0 change into is this 2-1 Vivid Blue. It's probably one of the best cards in the set. It's 2-1-7-5. If you have 2 key characters in memory, it gains another 1500, so it's 2-1-9k usually. It's very cost efficient since it only costs 1 at level 2 to play too, so it's a 2-1-9k. Secondary ability is whenever it reverses an opponent, you can clock yourself 1 from the top of your deck and draw a card. It's really good when you need more hand size, or if you played a climax that turn, or if you know you're out of like climaxes in your deck and you just want to get through your deck faster. It helps you like mill your deck 1 more damage by clocking yourself 1 and drawing 1, which is great because you get a plus hand off with this. This card is usually 9-5, and then like I showed earlier, these 1-1 3k counters at level 1 help it a ton. So it's really hard for your opponent to get over because it's usually 12-5 if they run into it with the counter. And this is basically your level 1 game. You want to have this out at level 1 as soon as possible so you can start running over things and then also plussing hand if you need it. Our last level 2 card is this 2-1 Wakaba counter. Personally, I'm not a big fan of these types of counters, but I can't lie, the secondary effect does help occasionally. It's just a 2-1-3-5 or 3k counter. With the secondary ability is when you use it, you have to mill the top 3 cards of your deck and put it into waiting room. In some cases this is really godlike, but most of the time I find this just like a dead card in my hand, and even sometimes I do end up leveling it up just because I don't ever really want that second ability to happen. There's some cases where I had to use it to like save a level 3 or something just so I can make sure I can win next turn, and I end up milling like 2 climaxes off the top of my deck, which sometimes does hurt, but yeah. Finally, the level 3 game. We run 3 of these level 3 Wakabas. These are probably one of the best like game finishers in Vividred. So when it comes into play, or yeah, the abilities are it can't side attack. When this card attacks, you can pay 2, top check your opponent's deck, the top 2 cards, and then you can move up to one of them to the bottom of the deck. So you can leave both on top if you want. Then the last ability is whenever you use a startup ability, all your characters gain 2,000 power for the turn. So like I talked about earlier, when like tapping 2 characters give 1,000 somewhere, if you have this out, suddenly your field is really buff. That's why I just realized it's not in this deck anymore. But yeah, that's why we don't really run the 2/1 level support, just because this card exists. And then whenever you use for example, use like one of these the 2/1 3K counter, suddenly this is a 5K counter that buffs also your other 2 characters 2K, because character counters are considered startup when you do use them. This card is like one of the best finishers to use. You usually end up playing this at level 3. It's just to end the game. I've won a few games that I totally had no business winning just because of this card, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people from Kira would contest to that. I won a tournament, like basically I should have had no chance to win like first place just because of this card in the finals. But this card just amazing at ending games. And then finally, we still run 4 of these Akane level 3s. They are healers. Like even if you run anti-heal, you still should run healers, because healing once is a big deal. There are games where you absolutely have to at least heal once to win the game. I don't give a shit what anyone says. Like, having a heal ability is always good. But what makes this card super godlike in this set is that for anyone that's familiar with, like, you know, they're just games where you're totally getting dominated, your opponent's at level 1 or something, and you're already hit to level 3. What this card basically says for its secondary ability is pay 3, discard 2 cards from your hand. You're always in the game. So what happens is this is pay 3, discard 2 on attack, and your opponent burns 5. Just because of that burn 5 ability, this card is still really godlike in this deck, because no matter what situation you're in, as long as you can play this card and pay for its ability, you always have a chance of winning, just because of the nature of the game. Since you know, randomly you can like burn your opponent 5. There was a game I was losing really bad, and I played 2 of these, and I used the burn 5 ability twice, and ended up my opponent ended up taking like something like 12 or 14 damage that turn just because of that, and it totally let me win the game. There's like almost no reason not to be running this card. Some people like take it out, and I'm just like, why? This card always keeps you in the game no matter what scenario you're in. You have a chance of winning. And then finally, for climax spread, it's just 4 books and 4 gates. We just generally want a plus hand for the most part. I'm not a big fan of double soul trigger. In this deck, you're alright with playing climaxes almost every turn, just because of the 2/1 Vivid Blue helps you get cards back by burning yourself once, so it's not too bad. Climax, and then like 1K1 is just such a great climax, because it just spreads the damage out and gives you a little bit of power everywhere. And then book isn't too bad too, because you can occasionally, like, sometimes you just have to know when you shouldn't be drawing cards from the book trigger, but most times you're okay with drawing into a gate or another book or something, because you just end up playing it next turn, and it helps you out a lot. That, and the only other kind of climax I'd probably run in this deck is 2K1, but even then it's not really needed, just because of how strong your level 1 game is, and also level 3. So to talk about this deck a little bit, some cool little tech things that aren't like super important, but like you should always keep in mind, is things like this. For example, like say I'm level 1 and my field is just something like this 106k or something, and then we'll just say this is the support. Generally your back line should always look like this, or with this card with something else back here that's also support. Basically, you're going to change, right? So what happens for the change is you have to pay 2, take both of these, put it into memory, and bring out the 2/1 Vivid Blue. And this happens during main step, so you can just do as many times as you want and do other things like that, but you can do other things with it. So what's so great about this change is, like, for example, if you have this card out, you can tap 2 cards, buff this 2k, so now it's 8-5. Then do the ability, putting these to the memory, bringing out this 2-1, which is great. And then you can do it again, like buff this if need be, or buff whatever you play here too. That's something you should always keep like keep in mind with this deck too, is always play like your 1-0s or something out if you need them to get buffer. Another thing too about this deck is you gotta, since we're running a tricolor deck, you need to pay attention a little bit more to what you level up. Generally it goes blue and then try to get green or red in at level 2. If you can get green in and still have some red in clock, that's great, and then end up leveling red at the end. In this deck there's only about 7 green, so you gotta be wary of that. Just make sure you hold on to a green card to level up later on sometime, because this card will help you like in games like no other. Then another thing to keep in mind too is that even though you do run these anti-healers, there's no reason to play them earlier. Whoa. I just realized I didn't go over the ability for anti-healer. So basically, when this card gets reversed, if you have two or more other key characters, you can pay 1, put this card in memory, and draw 2, discard 2. This helps you like mill out your hand, fix your hand. But what's so great about this card too is that it goes to memory. So and when it's in memory, it basically works as an anti-healer. If you don't know what anti-heal is, whenever a card goes from you or your opponent's clock through an ability they can control, they have to pay 2 stock. If they don't, they take the top card of their deck and put it to clock. So it just punishes people for trying to like heal over and over again. But let's get on with this. Like, generally you don't really want to play this until level 2, and then depending on what deck you're playing against, sometimes you don't play this at all. That's why I only run it as a 2 of. Some people might run it as a 3. There's no reason to like really get 2 of these in memory, because at the end of the day, occasionally you have to heal too. So you need to like keep that in mind, because you know there's never gonna be like a game where you don't have there's never gonna be a game where you like don't have to heal at all. Or that's not, like, the wording is totally wrong in that sentence, but there are games where you have to heal to win, basically, and if you don't heal, you're just gonna lose because you'll just die to refresh or something really dumb like that. So that's why you gotta be a little worried about these memory anti-healers. Personally, I hate memory anti-heal. I think it's like a horrible way to introduce anti-heal to the game, because it's just like a static card in the memory, and your opponent can't like play around it or do anything with it other than, you know, change the way they build the deck or something like that. I think I way prefer like supports that have anti-heal as an ability on them more than like this memory anti-heal. That way like people can play around it or put wound triggers in the deck and stuff like that. But I don't know, whatever Bushiroad wants, I guess. Just keep in mind, like, you don't always have to play this card, and you know, you mostly want to do it at level 2 if you decide to play it or whatever, because you know, always keep your options open for if you need to heal or not, especially if you do it early and then you end up taking like 2 levels worth of damage after you put this in memory, and that hurts yourself a lot, because it's a lot harder for you to heal and play level 3s if you are behind. So always keep in mind of how you're gonna, or how or when you're gonna play that. Let's see, anything else other special about this deck? Nothing really here. I think that's basically it for like some of the little trick plays and stuff that you can do. I guess also don't forget that brainstorming is a startup ability, so when you have the level 3 walkabout out, it does give all your characters 2k power when you do use it. Also, I said this earlier too, because of this card's ability of where when it reverses something, you clock yourself. When it reverses an opponent, you can clock yourself 1 and draw 1. It's all right to play climaxes like almost every turn earlier on, and if you do, it just helps you like push your opponent deeper into like level 2 faster, and then you can just play your anti-healer sooner, and try to like put them in a really awkward position where they can't really heal. But yeah, about it. That's like about the deck. It's a pretty solid deck. I really like this build. I don't think I really will change this anytime soon, but for other players, you might consider putting in a little bit more green cards or something, just so you have more targets to level up and stuff like that. This deck does run very long green because you don't need green until you're level 3, because you only want green for Wakaba because that card's so good at finishing games. You could possibly put in like 3 or 4 Brainstormers just to have more green targets, but that's like totally up to you. Besides that, this build's great. It's done pretty well in like some of the tournaments I've played, though they've only been shop tournaments, nothing really big. But yeah, that's about it for this vivid blue deck, basically. Not really vivid red, but yeah, this is just the vivid blue anti-heal build with Wakaba. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all the fun things, and make sure below, if you can, let me know what other kind of deck profiles you want or what other decks you want to see. I'm trying to just keep this channel like more on the competitive side of Weiss, so I'm just gonna try to stick to more competitive builds and things like that. I'm trying to avoid as many like fan things and stuff like that. I also it'd be awesome to know if what do you guys think, if maybe I can like bring up a video about discussing maybe sets and my thoughts on them as they come out, like new sets and stuff, or I can even go over old sets if you guys want, and talk about anything like how I rate them competitively and stuff. And I believe pretty soon I should have a new tier list up on my blog. You can check that out. I know I love writing the tier list and watching everyone in the White Shorts foreign group on Facebook go crazy and just like cry over my waifu is better than your waifu, just play waifus, blah 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 blah. I love seeing the madness that those posts create, just because people don't want to like consider the game that competitive or anything. But yeah, hopefully the set comes out in English too, so people can have some like silly stuff to work with. Besides that, hope to see you guys again, and thanks for watching. Later.